We knew it was coming. We didn't know it was going to be this spicy. But FSU files a complaint, but so does the ACC. Jim Phillips has a lot of energy for the Board of Trustees, but in the end, what will it all really mean?
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Kenton, joined by Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. Each and every day, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you download, subscribe to the pod from anywhere. Join our YouTube community where you talk to us, and we certainly love to talk back. We love all the comments, the opinions, and those who need to just simply touch grass. But either way it goes, we're always here for a good time. On today's episode, we're talking about FSU, the fact that, $572 million is keeping them from releasing themselves from our league. And we'll talk through that, as well as Jim Phillips' response to all of the grant of rights nonsense and the legal filing that the ACC did against FSU's Board of Trustees. So much to go over, so many stipulations and all the 38-page file documents. But either way, we've got Kenton here to help us through that as we tackle it one by one, and hope you guys can tune in and rock out with us. So let's get started, shall we? Kenton, here we go.
If you're reading this, you've been named in the lawsuit as well, okay? Everybody's getting sued today. Everybody's getting sued today. There's some suing going on. There's some counter-suing going on. There's even controversy about who filed first. This story is the gift that keeps on giving. Because right when you think, well, what's going to be the storyline, right? What are we going to talk about during the offseason? The early signing period is over. For the most part, the ACC isn't in play for any of the big name recruits that are still out there. The transfer portal, for the most part, there's a few guys here and there, but for the most part, that's slowing down too. And all we were thinking is, man, I guess Kenny Payne getting fired is going to be the only thing we can cover. He still got his job for now. At the time of this recording, he still got a job. But lo and behold, that board of trustees, they said, the Lord is our shepherd, and we know what you want, media. We're going to give you something to talk about. We're going to give you something to talk about. We are filing suit. And Jim Phillips, that old bag of bones that we thought was no good, couldn't do nothing, just a shell in a suit. He done popped out, poked his chest out a little bit and said, hey, you could sue me, I could sue you back. We could sue each other, buddy. It's getting real, what's the word? What's the word for when things get legal? Is it litigious? What's the word for?
Now, full well I'm not that one.
Okay, well, it's getting very legal in here. Getting real legal. Now, I love what's going on.
Whole lot of litigation going on. Whole lot of litigation. 1,000%. So when we last left our heroes, we had mentioned that there would be a Board of Trustees meeting from FSU. That took place. It was a live, whole thing where they had to vote on whether or not to take legal action against the ACC. They laid out the things that it would take, laid out the financial stipulations, laid out why they felt like the ACC had done them wrong, laid out, what comes with the grant of rights. And there were about 5 things that we looked through that we said, okay, if we iron out what the real problem is, let's talk through it. So Kenton, if you will, let's go through the 5 and really just kind of hone in on whether or not we agree or disagree with those sentiments.
All right. So, and again, Candace Cooper and I are not legals. So y'all all know that.
No legal action here. We cannot offer legal advice. We are just telling you what we watched. We're not over here trying to tell you what is opinion and law. So please relax. All of you legal eagles in the comments who want to tell us that we don't know what we're talking about. We've been talking about this since when? Since realignment talks. Come on. Yeah. Don't do us, but go ahead.
And first thing first, the $572 million buyout was announced by Florida State side of this thing. So I don't want to hear anybody saying, Ken, you're inflating those numbers to make it seem like Florida State. That $572 million was the total amount that all in Florida State was going to have to fork over to get out of this. And now we'll get to the 5 points that the lawsuit boiled down to, basically. The grant of rights and the ACC withdrawal fees violate Florida antitrust law as the first point. The second point, the grant of rights and withdrawal fees are unenforceable penalty. The third fee, or the third point, is there was a breach of contract in terms of how the ACC conducted business after the grant of rights was signed, as well as certain aspects of the grant of rights, like the fact that this is a basically renewable deal for ESPN at 2027. They have till 2025 to decide, but at 2027, that's where they decide, or that's where they would be extending it out to 2036 or not. So at 2025, they decide, how long that runs for. The fourth point was a breach of fiduciary duty. So for those of you who don't know, fiduciary duty basically means who you're financially responsible to. If you're a publicly traded company, you're responsible to your shareholders, all that good stuff. In this situation, Florida State is saying that as one of your member schools, you all were not financially good stewards, I believe was the exact phrase and wording that was used in terms of the deal and how it affected everybody there. And the fifth was the unconscionability/violation of public policy. So that's what that is. And I don't quite understand that one. So I'm not going to speculate as to, I sat in, and I promise you, I watched the entire Board of Trustees meeting from opening through the former quarterback saying, hey, we appreciate everybody and how much energy we're all putting into this. So I watched the entire thing, and that's what I got out of it. And I confirmed with multiple folks, just making sure that I was spot on there because I didn't want to get any of the legal jargon wrong. So that is the sentiment in essence that is coming out of Tallahassee.
So what I'm gathering here is basically we signed a deal, but the deal was kind of janky from jump.
Yeah.
Okay. And y'all didn't allow us to even consider the fact that this was a janky deal. And y'all let it even be. Y'all didn't even think about us or consider the rest of the schools and how this would affect us for real. Y'all just took it as a league to say, you know what? Sign this death sentence and y'all are locked to this death sentence. Here you go.
I mean, in essence, I believe that that's what Florida State is arguing here.
Okay. And now that I want to get out of this deal, you can't really penalize me to places that is going to really jack me up.
So, yes. And to put this in language that most people would understand, if you remember the 90s and Death Row Records, where everybody that was signed to Suge Knight was like, hey, we're making millions of dollars. And Suge Knight was like, no, I'm making millions of dollars. Y'all are making hundreds of thousands. Good for you, though, right? A lot of you are from under.
Or it's kind of like Diddy where, oh, yeah, we're partners. We're business people. We're friends. Until the checks start rolling in. You're like, actually, are we really friends? Are we really partners? This is really a business relationship among friends. It's very much so a moment where, long story short, Florida State is looking up and saying, hey, this is a bad deal that we signed. And then because we signed on with you and you entered a bad deal, now you haven't done right by us because of that. And the ACC's argument against that is more or less, hey, we have plenty. We've given you millions of dollars. We don't know what else you could want from us. We've given you tens of millions of dollars as a member of the conference and all that good stuff. I mean, this is just a situation to me where I think that there are some legitimate points from a moral standpoint. Absolutely. The unfortunate part is morality don't pay the rent, honey. And at the end of the day, your FSU administration signed them documents. And
here's the deal.
Didn't put no gun to nobody's head.
From the fiduciary standpoint, again, financially, the ACC did do what was best for themselves in putting in these absorbent grant of rights clauses and these absorbent exit clauses. I'm not disagreeing there. I will not tell anybody it was best for the teams. ACC did that because that was best for every member team. I would not argue that. I can see the argument that it is best for teams because stability is best for everybody, right? It's best to make sure that teams can't leave. Yes, I get that it's good for the gander and good for the goose there. But for certain teams, they may have been hampered or hurt by this. But there are multiple layers to this thing that, I mean, again, and I've talked to some folks who work in the legal field about this, and I've been in contact with folks who work in the legal field, particularly sports law, about these things. And I'm going to tell you, this seems like this is Sisyphus's boulder in terms of Florida State, because
you're using all the big words today, baby. Okay.
Well, I mean, in Greek mythology, Sisyphus just kept pushing the boulder up the hill, and every time he got to the top, it would get back to the bottom.
Listen, we already did Dante yesterday. I'm over it. But I say all that to say, in none of this did I hear that the grant of rights is still breakable and there's somehow some way that you can get out of it. But let's talk about that and Jim Phillips' response at the end of the day. First, I want to remind you guys that today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. We all know that FanDuel is a great place for you. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. Spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. FanDuel.com has it for you. Go to FanDuel.com/LockedOnCollege. FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. So we're talking through some good stuff here with FSU, grant of rights deals. At the end of the day, it still feels like the grant of rights is ironclad, but Jim Phillips wanted to make sure he honed in on that point, because, you know, our guy feels a little way. He always feels a little way, and he's always ready to respond with a statement when things go awry. Jim Phillips said Florida State's decision to file action against the conference is in direct conflict with their long-standing obligations and is a clear violation of their legal commitments to the members. Distracting. All ACC members, including Florida State, willingly and knowingly re-signed the current grant of rights in 2016, which is wholly enforceable and binding through 2036. Each university has benefited from this agreement, receiving millions of dollars in revenue, and neither Florida State nor any other institution has ever challenged its legitimacy. As a league, we are proud of the success of our student athletes, and that the ACC has won the most NCAA national championships over the past 2.5 years, while also achieving highest graduation success and academic performance rates among all FBS conferences. So it's especially disappointing that FSU would choose to pursue this unprecedented and overreaching approach. One thing about Jim Phillips, baby, he always going to talk about how good we are as a conference. He always going to talk about them championships, even if it's in golf, if it's in tennis, if it's in water polo, he is going to mention our academic and national championship recognition. We are confident that the grant of rights, which has been honored by all universities who signed similar agreements, will be affirmed by the courts, and the conference's legal counsel will vigorously enforce the agreement in the best interest of the ACC's current and incoming members. So interesting, because FSU, one of their biggest points of frustration was the addition of SMU, Cal, and Stanford. They felt like that was just the writing on the wall. Y'all don't really care about big market. Y'all don't understand how this works, and it's signing us up for not success.
Yeah, and here's my whole thing about this deal, right? And there are the thing that I find so interesting is in hearing the legal jargon that was used by the representatives or the Council of Florida State, and in hearing the different things that are coming out via different parties who have listened to this thing. I'm getting that there are many things that want to be attacked here, many things that want to be firmly addressed and come out here. I think the most important thing that all of us need to realize, nobody has actually seen the actual grant of rights here, other than the people who signed it. Like, it was said in the actual Board of Trustees meeting, by the way. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I heard from the mouths of the Board of Trustees. The actual Board of Trustees said, and I quote, we pulled a copy, and this was their counsel, by the way. I'm sorry. So let me make that clear. This was not the Board of Trustees. In and of themselves. This was their legal counsel. Said we only have a 2 copies of the grant of rights that were pulled from offline, the 2013 version and the 2016 version. So that's just what was told by them publicly which is a little concerning for me in terms of the Board of Trustees may be going into this lawsuit kind of blind. They may be flying without maximum visibility. And that's the biggest concern to me, because you're not flying without maximum visibility on an issue that's like and granted, as a regular everyday citizen, this sounds like a lot. You're not flying blind on the issue that's $1 million, $2 million, $5 million issue. This is a multiple $100 million issue. If there is any moment in life where you want to be surest of the sure, clearest of the clear, hey, baby, I need a copy in my hand. I need firm paper in my hand. I need something. Hey, put it on my phone, put it on my Nook, put it on my Kindle, whatever you read your documents on. I need to see an original copy. This feels like the moment. And yet it's not there, and they're still moving forward, which is, I'm confused by that. I'm confused.
Well, I just think you don't show. I don't think you show your left hand what your right hand is doing. I truly, in my heart of hearts, don't believe that any legal person is going into anything completely blind.
No, I'm not saying they're completely blind. My thing is they have an idea, right? You have an idea of what's going on.
So all of this is guesstimations, is what you're saying.
That's my problem. All of it is a guesstimation, but there are multiple points at which, hey, we have a version of the contract. We don't have the version. I would be down there at the ACC. Hey, I need the actual version, please and thank you. I need that right away.
Why would Jim Phillips say, like, at the end of the day, no one has ever questioned their legitimacy, because we all know that you signed it, you knew what you signed, so why wouldn't you have a copy? And
that is the question. Now you're getting to the question that I'm asking, because again, I'm not suing off any contract that I have not seen personally.
But the FSU would have had to have it, right?
No, they didn't.
How did they sign something that they didn't see?
So whatever the agreement was, however it went, the Board of Trustees and their legal representation do not have a copy. How they signed it and don't have a copy is beyond me, because you and I both know.
It's not a gentleman's agreement. So listen,
it was signed, and here's the deal. And this was something else that was said, again, by Florida State's legal counsel, because again, I was there for every second of this thing. I'm not telling y'all speculation. I'm telling you what I saw. What was said was, we want to see the original copy that is signed in blue ink so everybody knows it is an original copy. Now, you hear the wording I use there? We want to see it. Not we have it, not we are pulling it out, not we know what this looks like. There were multiple points. And if anybody in here can tell me I'm lying, please quote me, tell me where I'm lying at, and we'll bring your comment on screen. I heard multiple times from their counsel, we want to see the original.
And Jim Phillips in the ACC said, come get it black and blood. Okay, heard you. Stand 10 toes, ACC. Okay.
I don't understand it. I'm going to say this. I'm a technical recruiter. I work at startups. I sign people on the startups and all that. Every time I send a contract out, it's sent via something. Even if people do sign in person, we send them a copy via the internet, via email. So they have a copy for their records. We have a copy for ours. How they don't have a copy for their records, that's malpractice on your leadership. Your leadership should have did that. That's not something that you can then retroactively look back and say, oh, we don't have a copy. We're kind of flying with 80% visibility, but we trust that there isn't a mountain in the way here just because we think that that's how it's going to work out. That is my biggest concern from the Florida State point. The buyout money is what it is. There's
no way, Kenton. There's terrible. No, I just can't believe that for a second. I cannot believe for a second that nobody. The AD needs to call up the AD from North Carolina. They need to call up. Like, I'm not understanding.
If
they need a FOIA. I need it. They know.
If I'm Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, as some people like to call it, I will tell you this. If I am lying, I'm going to grow wings and start flying. Okay. I'm telling you right now, I know for a fact that they said multiple times, we don't have the original. So that, again, to me, Florida State needs to address that before anything else. If I was Florida State's Board of Trustees and all that, I would make it very clear, yes, legal action is imminent, but before I took legal action, I would have made sure I need the original. I need the
So
transcript.
know what you're battling before you even. So maybe they're going a little too fast, putting a little bit more cart before.
They're putting the cart before the horse. Yeah, they're putting the cart before the horse, and that is the confusing part for me. That's the confusing part for me. You know what I mean? Because regardless of how you cut it, how you slice it, if you feel like a deal, and Mr. Noel, I get what you're saying here in terms of, you know, this was the ACC. Now, I will say, to their benefit, like Mr. Noel did state, it was the ACC signing on their behalf after they signed on to be a full member of the ACC and all that. However, again, the question still remains: if you signed on to be with the conference and say, hey, we're giving you the right to represent us, we're giving you the right to take care of our TV deals, we're giving you the right to do all the things, right? Because there is an option to not do that. We're looking at you, Notre Dame. They've exercised the right to say, y'all can, in these areas, y'all have full rights. In this one, you do not. We are not giving you rights there.
Cool. So in all of this, right, because we got to fly a plane eventually.
Yeah.
Who is the most shiesty out of the bunch? Is it FSU and the universities, really? We can group the whole thing because, you know, UNC in that mix. We got Clemson in that mix, everybody trying to get that mix. It's the universities. Is it the ACC? Or is it ESPN? Who's the most shiesty out of the group?
So the most shiesty is ESPN. But if you've ever seen the movie No Country for Old Men, it's a lot like that. There are no heroes here. There are no good guys here. Like, there are objectively, ESPN is the most shiesty because what they have done here is very clearly strong-armed a conference that they could tell was going to be on the ropes into a bad deal. And I mean,
you could tell they shiestied us by the fact that, you know, look at our network. But go ahead.
Yeah, and then, well,
all right.
And then the conference in turn, because they got strong-armed, leveraged their power over their teams when realignment appeared to be a very serious reality, and said, hey, this is what we're doing. We're keeping the band together through time X, Y, and Z. That's just the reality. That's just the reality of what they were looking at there. And so you go forward from there and say, okay, well, the colleges and universities are the ones who were done dirty. But even when you go there, are they really? Because when you look at the system as it stands right now, yes, players are getting money off their name, image, and likeness. But the reality is we're talking about $100 million deals, right? Like, that's objectively what we're talking about right now. $100 million buyouts, billion-dollar deals, all that type of stuff. Why have we not said one time, how would this affect the players? Where would the players' salaries be hurt? How would the players' money be hurt out of this? You know why? Because the players aren't getting paid. So there is no hero in this party. There is nobody in this that I'm like, oh, they're completely non-shiesty. It's just ESPN is the most shiesty of the group for kicking all of this off.
So I just feel like at the end of the day, right, I'm not going to cry over millionaires fighting over millions that we're never going to see. So let's just start there. But maybe it was they needed more visionaries from all universities coming together and saying, hey, guys, this seems nice right now, but like, where will the state of college play be, you know, several years down the road? Like, yeah, we're talking about amateurism right now, but is that something that we feel like is going to sustain? Who knows? We didn't know. I didn't know the college landscape was going to look like this. I'm not even going to pretend to act like NIL and all the things and the transfer portal the way it is, pay to play, was really going to implement itself now. But maybe there was just a misstep from university leadership all the way around to not really know what this could have been. They should have done a little more. Like, let's have forecasting. Look at my business school word.
You know, it was very much so that type of situation, and it's very much so appearing to be a situation where enough people didn't read the fine print. Like, that appears to be the problem here. Enough people didn't read the fine print, and now folks are trying to go back and kind of look up and say, all right, what can we do to retroactively break this thing and say, hey, where we are now is not where we want to be, therefore we want out. That's in essence where they are, and that's the problem. You can't. It doesn't work like that. Once you put pen to paper, you know, it's like the picture of the broken wine glass that's all over the internet right now, and it's got bandages all over this patched together. But every time you pour wine in it, what happens? It just pours out because it's already broken. That's what this deal is. Too many people broke the glass already, and now folks are trying to go back and rework it or figure it out and say, well, I'm not getting a good cut out of this, or, you know, well, the conference is happy. it's just the glass is broken.
And here's why it will never change. But first, let's talk about Gametime. We all know that whenever you want to get in on the ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind, you got to go with Gametime. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats, find exclusive flash deals and sponsor deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, and more. Let's take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, using create account at Gametime app, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. At the end of the day, Jim Phillips doesn't know how to stand on business about a lot of things. But one thing he does know is that he likes his very cushy, not rock the boat job here as commissioner of the ACC. The way he did not stand on business throughout the entire season to ensure that FSU got a college football playoff spot. Absolutely. I don't know why anyone thought he would say, you know what? They got screwed for this deal. Let me make good. He's never going to do that. And that's where we're landing this plane right here. It's never going to change. And
that's my biggest problem with Phillips. You should have been out, and I'm not saying that this would have prevented this. I'm not saying, if Phillips was a more active if he was a more proactive advocate for the conference at large and for Florida State in particular, things would be better. However, again, if you look at the other conferences and what they're doing, they have a very intentional plan. Who's the ACC's representative on College Game Day? What college did Kirk Herbstreit go to? Don't worry, I'll answer that for you. Ohio State. Mm-hmm. And he's glad to tell you, ain't no way under God's green earth he would ever argue, Ohio State just lost their top 2-3 quarterbacks. Michigan lost their top 2-3 quarterbacks. They shouldn't be in. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't be in. There's no way. Where did Desmond Howard go to college? I'll answer for you. Michigan. There's no way he's sitting up there saying an undefeated Michigan, hey, whatever. It just shouldn't be. That's fair. That's not how it's going to work out. That's fair. Where did Pat McAfee go to college? West Virginia. He's not going to sit up there and say an undefeated Big 12 team should, that doesn't, Lee Corso is our guy, and with all due respect, I love Lee Corso. I love me some Lee Corso.
We all do.
I love me some Lee Corso.
It's about that time.
He doesn't have the vim and vigor in him anymore, with all due respect. Father Time is undefeated. LeBron ain't jumping today like he did when he was 19, okay? That's just the reality. We're seeing the same thing with Lee Corso. We need somebody. Paul Feinbaum will get on TV every 5 minutes to tell you how good the SEC is. He's always on ESPN telling you how good the SEC is. The ACC needs their Paul Feinbaum. The ACC needs their Kirk Herbstreit. The ACC needs their Desmond Howard. That's getting up there and saying on a national stage, we are not going to play this game of this team could be eliminated. Because, again, there were segments before Jordan Travis even got hurt. Of those guys saying, well, who do you leave out of the playoff if this happens? And every time the answer was FSU. And this was before Jordan Travis got hurt.
Well, Eric McLean, what you doing, big dog? Let's get some elevation. We need a promotion. We need a promotion because that's the only one I can think of that would even have a chance.
Somebody needs to get up there. The ACC needs to have their person. And Jim Phillips, like I said, it starts and ends with you. You need to be the loudest person. You should have been on every TV screen there was when they were talking about leaving Florida State out when Jordan Travis was healthy. You should have been on every TV screen. Hey, call my publicist up. We need to be in front of everybody. I don't care who it is. If they work at ESPN, if they got some time at ESPN, tell them the commissioner want to talk. But you didn't. And now we are where we are.
And we're never going to be again. But my only thing about FSU, we do have some bowl games to 2-minute talk about at the end. My only thing now is that why leave? Because you almost guarantee the spot by being in the ACC. The ACC is still going to be what it is. You have 12 spots. You're going to compete against Clemson next year, have a fighting chance, NC State. Like, you're going to more than likely be in this bad boy. Why even go down the financial rabbit hole just to be in the conference where you're going to have to compete, I guess? But, ultimately, yes, you get more money for your school, so I see it. However, what's the real reasoning now to fight?
And here's the thing. I get the more money aspect. But I think that Florida State is missing out on just a couple of things that are very important here. Number one, Florida State is in a hotbed of recruiting. We all know what Florida does in terms of putting out football players. Nobody does it like them. That's just the reality, right?
Sure.
I'm a Michigan guy. I love Michigan football. I think it's wildly underrated. We do not have the population, just sheer numbers to match what they're putting out. Even the states that do have bigger populations, like a New York, like a California, they're not close. Texas is probably the next one, but you get what I'm saying. Florida State is located there already, right? So in terms of recruiting, you already have the pool of if a young man wants to stay close to home and they want to compete for national championships. Of the 3 schools,
and people keep saying we want, you leave to get the more money, but the more money for what? Explain to me for what?
And that is my only kind of drawback of, like, even if this does go well for Florida State, it doesn't make sense from that aspect. Don't get me wrong. I will never tell anybody pass up $30 million. We live in a capitalist system. That's where we are. The more money is always going to be the bigger draw. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not saying that you're wrong.
Where is the money going to?
To facilities.
Hey, okay.
Facilities.
Just as long as we're clear where it's going, because we could get more money all day long, but let's just ensure it's going to the right places to keep elevating.
Facilities and administrators is going to eat that up. They're going to eat that. Like Kobayashi, that 30 mil going to be gone. Okay. But that's what it is, though. That's what I'm saying, right? The reality of this thing is Florida State wants more money. Cool. You can go get it. However, from a competitive standpoint, when you talk about competitive on the field, I guarantee you if there was a 12-team playoff, Florida State would have gotten a bye. Because that way, ESPN still gets their multiple SEC darlings in, and you get in Florida State, you go ahead and give them their bye and let them rest up or whatever for the first week of the playoff, whatever the case may be. Everybody's happy. It just so happened to be the way that it's shaped out this year, being the last year of 4. Somebody was going to have to be left on the outside, which I wholeheartedly disagree with Florida State being left on the outside. But the reality is, I think from a competitive standpoint, it would make more sense for Florida State to say, you know what, let's stay in the ACC. Let's keep kicking these guys around.
But exactly, because I'm not saying this is the case before you jump down my back. But are you willing to potentially be an afterthought in a new conference or be one that's middle tier when you can be dominant? Because we all know we love winning. Everybody loves winning. I don't know why else you do it. Why else do you play sports? But are you cool with making the more money, being competitive, but you're finishing 4th or 5th in your conference every year? And 5th, 6th, 7th.
And here's the other end of that. I truly believe, and I mean this with my whole heart and soul. This is a Florida State program that if they continue on the path that they're currently going, there's not a team in the country they can't compete with. Even if they went to the SEC, I don't think that they're oh my God, they're in the SEC now, so they're not good anymore. I just think that the competitive part of this does not make sense in terms of we're a very popcorn society. We have a goldfish mentality, right? We just see a thing and we're like, oh, this thing's in front of us. We forgot what just happened 2 minutes ago. When the granted rights was originally signed, Florida State was going through a very tough time. A very tough time in terms of football. That's just the reality, right? So you're looking at a case where if we were to assume worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario for FSU, then yes, competitively that is terrible because you do end up the 5th or 6th best. But I think the reality of where they are, I think they'll be just fine competitively anywhere. I think the biggest problem is even if you do get out of the ACC, who would want to pay you a full share out of the Big 2? Because there's only 2 people who can bid. There's only 2. If you leave the ACC to go to the Big 12, that'll be the
it's never going to happen. But my biggest thing is like, okay, so for example, Virginia Tech, ODU, you saw, what was our boy's name that we talked about all season long who ended up coming from ODU to Virginia Tech?
It was a receiver, Ali Jennings. Yes.
So when you go into the FSU in this world of pay for play, you start playing the big dogs where they say, hey, we see a Keon Coleman, big dog. How about you go ahead and leave this bad boy, come over to Death Row. We got this whole deal for you if you get, $2 million if you come to our side. And in the age where, loyalty is crazy, not really existent, if you start getting into a different conference, maybe they're just like, hey, I'd rather go play somewhere else. I'd rather just go poach your players every other day, every other hour on the hour.
I mean, so wait, I'm confused on the aspect of poaching players because who would be poaching from who? The bigger schools?
So So yeah, so like a Texas would be poaching from FSU versus you're not gonna go poach from Virginia Tech. Like Virginia Tech, you're more likely as an FSU thing, like come play for FSU versus come play for if you're FSU, go play for Texas. That type of beat.
If you are FSU, I don't think you have to worry about poaching because
getting poached. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have to worry about people poaching your best players because here's the deal. How many of Florida State's best players have left so far? Because they weren't getting paid enough. Who? And granted, we have heard of some. Here's the other thing about NIL, and I hear people talking about, hey, the money will go towards NIL. No, it won't. The TV contract money and NIL, two separate things. Two very separate things. You cannot just cross those wires and have that go the way that you want it to go. It doesn't work that way. And plus, coaches can't give to the NIL collectives and all that, which there's a few ways around that, but I'm not going to talk about that on air. Anyway, the reality is very simple. Florida State is still a major national brand, What would other schools have to offer players that Florida State wouldn't? What would they have to offer? Like, let's just say, right, that you're looking at the worst case. The worst case scenario for FSU. They stay in the ACC, worst case scenario, right? What do other schools have to offer them if they're a perennial playoff team, a major national brand that has been that since the Bobby Bowden days, a team that is going to the playoff, winning football games, and has one of the biggest NIL collectives?
Texas has its own network. The hell are you talking about? I can have my own show.
The logo network don't exist no more.
I'm saying that we can bring it back. I can have my own podcast. I can have my own series. Like, what do you?
Marlo Wax and the mob from Syracuse have their own podcast. Anybody can start a podcast. What are we doing here?
The thing is, you can give me a F-150. You can pay my mama rent with that Texas oil money. Like, there's just, why not? But all it is because we matched up every single year. I never saw you before, but now I have to go up against you. And what's better than what I have, what you have?
So let's look at the money aspect of it. Texas A&M has been the highest paying team every year, every single year, without a doubt. Nobody has had any questions about who's paying them. What happened to Texas A&M's head coach? Who's Texas A&M's head coach right now? What's his name? Mike Elko, I believe it was. What's Mike Elko's record at Texas A&M as a head coach?
0-0.
Now, wait a minute. Candace, this ain't making sense because you told me that the money is all that matters here. Now, if the money was all that mattered, Texas A&M would be in the national championship every year. They'd be poaching players from Florida State because Texas A&M got more money than Florida State. How many players have we seen defect from Tallahassee to go to Aggieland?
You right. I give you that.
The reality is simple. Yes, I'm hand to God, I'm saying this again. That's something that I have heard firsthand. I know of a player who transferred into the ACC who took a pay cut from his original school because he wanted to win. If Florida State can offer players the ability to stay close to home and the ability to win, and by the way, here's the thing that I don't think y'all are understanding when people keep talking about facilities. I challenge you, go look at a mid-level Power 5 facilities. Go look at them. There is nothing more you can ask for. There's nothing more. You look at the richest Power 5 teams, they have things that legitimately are like, I don't see the purpose. Like, and I mean this from like 18-year-old Kenton's brain that's like, ooh, everything is fun and shiny and exciting.
Oh, I would love a sous chef. What you talk about, please? I would love a go-kart ride every time I even step out of my dorm room.
How many mid-level Power 5s do you think don't have that? How many?
That's fine.
When I played at NC State, we knew the chefs. We knew the chefs by first name. They were amazing people. They cooked some good food. It was crab legs every single.
Listen, I know Miss Shirley got your omelet bomb. I understand that. But what I'm saying is all that matters when it's all said and done. Money, cash is king right now in the ACC, SEC, all of it. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, we're going to have to figure out put some sort of reins on this bad boy. We're going to have to wrangle this thing home. But as of right now, today, FSU is right where they are. Who knows where they're going to be. The grant of rights is still what it is. I do think they're going to get out of it. I think they're going to pay not as hefty of a price, but they're going to pay something.
Here's my thing. Honestly and truly, I could see this playing out multiple ways. I could see Florida State kind of, and I hate to say this because I know Noles fans are going to get mad at me, but the reality is you very seriously would be cutting off your nose to spite your face if you left right now. Because the best case scenario out of that, the best case scenario is, a court says, all right, you got to pay significantly less. And then again, there are 2 realistic bidders. 2. And let's just be honest, while we all want to play and say, well, it's the free market, everybody plays fair, Sankey going to put in a call to whoever's up there as the commissioner in the Big Ten. Hey, listen, I'm thinking about playing Florida State X amount. Y'all can pay him more if you want to. I don't think we need to go that far above this. That group says, you know what? I agree. Boom. Your value just got cut right there. And we can even pretend that those 2 hate each other and say, oh, they don't talk at all. Sure, there's not going to be an intense bidding war that somebody gets you at full revenue for the first 5-10 years.
Right.
So now you just paid out.
All in all, collusion is very real up in these streets.
Yeah.
That's why I know Jim ain't doing his job right, because he ain't making the right phone call.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
He ain't got the burner popping like he should.
So
fair.
So the reality is you're going to have to pay out a 9-figure payment, even if it's a low 9-figure, not $500 million.
9 is still 9 is still 9.
9 is still 9. So you pay, let's say, $200 million. And then after you pay the $200 million, you still have to abide by the media rights part of it. And that, you still got to give the ACC X% of your home games. Let's say 50% of your home games for the next 5-10 years. Oh, and by the way, you're getting a partial share at your new spot. Look no further than Maryland. Maryland left when there was no grant of rights holding everybody in place. And they still had to pay 60% of what the original buyout was, 30 of the $50 million that they were supposed to pay. And they have never financially recovered. They still to this day have not financially recovered from that.
They need a PPP loan, honey, because they need a miracle. They're going to need 3 miracles and maybe some Saudi money. But either way it goes, they're going to have to figure it out.
They got Under Armour money and it ain't hitting. They got Under Armour money back in Maryland and it ain't hitting, with all due respect to Kevin Plank and company. It's just not getting the job done. So,
fair. We got to land this plane. Georgia Tech and Duke play bowl games this weekend. Yeah. I hate we had to end it here because, we're talking about all these exciting things and making money. And then we're like, oh, yeah, our 2 best teams in the ACC, Duke and Georgia Tech playing bowl games over here. So make sure you check those out. But we'll have more updates throughout the weekend. We appreciate y'all joining. We love these live shows because we know everyone gets rowdy when we go live and we talk about Florida State. Mm-hmm. We know these comments are going to be insane. We already know we have so many legal eagles that are about to jump in and breathe down our necks and tell us what it's really about. Go touch grass this weekend. Enjoy your holiday. However you celebrate, please get some eggnog and a good vibe. That's all we're asking. That's all we're asking for you to do. And Jim Phillips, stand on business, big dog.
Stand on business. Stand on business. You got weak ankles right now, brother. You got weak ankles. Stand on business. Stand on business.
For Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs, hope you guys have a great and safe holiday. Until next time.